My name is Cristina Pondo. I am from Las Cruces, New Mexico, and I enjoy singing.
Hi, my name is Bradley N. Tar. A little bit about me. I'm obsessed with theology and philosophy and history. I'm an advocate for AOT, and I do a lot of crisis intervention team sessions and lectures with police departments and EMT departments as well. What life was like for me before entering the assisted outpatient treatment program was, in one word, misunderstood. I was misunderstood all the way up until from 11 years old when my symptoms first manifested to when I was 26 years old. My diagnosis was given to me through an AOT psychiatrist, and my diagnosis is having schizoaffective disorder, which is all of the symptoms of bipolarism over here and all the symptoms of schizophrenia mixed together. And the thing about that is that it makes you vastly misunderstood, and not just during junior high and high school and college, where rumors and gossip would spread about me. Members of my family that thought that just talk therapy alone could solve my problems. Some people in my family thought, oh, we just need homeopathic cures, and those didn't work. And there are some members of my family to this day who still hold to those opinions. I was just very much misunderstood, whether it was because of being in the midst of a delusion or being in the midst of a hallucination or being in the midst of having manic insomniatic behaviors. I was just completely misunderstood. And that was my entire life prior to AOT, not only at school and not only in public, but also at church and in my own family.
What life was like before I entered into the AOT program was I was spiraling down into a lot of manic episodes, and I was hospitalized 3 different times before I was actually put into the program. And it helped tremendously, although before that it was chaotic. I was escorted by policemen to the hospital in handcuffs. It was very scary, but I'm very grateful that the AOT program exists. I was diagnosed with bipolar schizoaffective when I was about 22 years old, although I had psychotic symptoms when I was 17 years old, and they just diagnosed me with depression with psychotic episodes, but later on found out that it was bipolar schizoaffective.
From the ages of 11 to the age of 26, between those ages, I was hospitalized at least 20 times, if not more. You stop counting after a while. I had about 6 or 7 different psychiatrists, and none of them truly cared enough to even come up with a firm, nailed down clinical diagnosis. Sometimes they thought it was just chronic depression. Sometimes they thought maybe it's manic depressive bipolar. Sometimes they would just put unspecified mood disorder on my form. And then at 26 in 2019, when I was given my AOT psychiatrist, she actually nailed down an actual diagnosis and started giving me a mixture of 3 different types of medications at once, like one medication to counteract bipolar symptoms, another to counteract schizophrenia symptoms, and the third one to counteract some of my facial and my hand, my nervous tics that can be a side effect of my lithium. So she had the right mixture of meds, the right diagnosis, and she showed me actual hospitality and charity, that she saw me as an individual. She wasn't trying to fill quotas with what she was giving me. She was night and day from the half a dozen psychiatrists that came before. So she saw me as a human person and not as a number on a sheet, and that made a world of a difference.
I don't know about you, Bradley, but I felt like a guinea pig throughout a lot of my years, just being placed on medication.
Oh yeah.
Medication.
Yeah.
Well, I was at my third hospitalization at the local hospital, and they finally recommended, well, they ordered me to go to the Peak Act Team AOT as well. And I didn't know anything about Peak Act. I never heard about it. And I was so scared to enter into it because I thought it was going to be like a inpatient clinic where I'd have to stay there. But it was nothing like that. It was more, the people were so caring. It took a little while to gain trust in them because I'd been, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Um, Disappointed in the previous helpers and psychiatrists, workers that worked with me. And it was such a different program. They really actually cared. They delivered my meds every day from that point on. And that just helped tremendously to know that they were really there and they really care. They came with a smile on their face, a caring heart, and they they made the difference for me. I have a counselor who's going to be my therapist. She's testing for it to be a therapist, and I go to group therapy almost every Tuesday. Just yesterday, they took us out to the El Paso Zoo, and we've gone on trips to Alamogordo to the Space Center. They also have an on staff of case managers, psychiatrists, nurses, and of course the director, who's really great. I've heard a lot of the clients say, you're my family to the Peak Act team because they don't have any family. And I think if a client doesn't have family support, who are they going to turn to but anybody that's going to help them? And the Peak Act team is a great way to go.
I started experiencing, and anybody who is in any way bipolar or schizophrenic, anywhere on those spectrums will tell you that this can often happen where like maybe early to mid November of 2018, it's almost like it feels like your symptoms, like your unhealthiness, your unwellness, your unbalancedness, it's almost like it feels like it starts to creep up on your skin and crawl all over you, and just bit by bit. And I felt that those manic and those depressive and those symptoms starting to come on, small at first, but slowly building, like early mid-November of 2018. And from mid-November to late January of 2019, I had like about I think somewhere around 4 or 5 like crisis emergency appointments with my psychiatrist. But by the time it got to early February, I was so bad that my mom drove me to the local mental health agency, and I told them, like, I desperately need help. Please take me to the hospital. I'm in crisis. And they did. And I was in and out of the hospital in early 2019. From March to May, I was in and out of the hospital about 5 times. And that's what triggered the civil commitment process of the county putting me into AOT. And I was actually the very first person to ever be put into AOT in Richland County. And that was May 2019. And I had just gotten done in 2017, having spent 14 months in a mental health probation court, which was a real whirlwind of being mistreated. So I thought, I hope this isn't just another mental health court, because like I was told, like there's a judge and you'll have a lawyer and all this stuff. But the AOT team was like a night and day difference for my county at that time than the mental health probation court. Because AOT, I mean, the guardian ad litem, my case manager, my talk therapist, my psychiatrist, the AOT judge, Judge Mayer, it was like the other side of a coin type of difference, where one side is dirty and rusted and the other side is like brand spanking new shiny. And AOT, I graduated from AOT in 2020, but it only took about maybe 6 or 7 weeks of being in AOT to realize that this was nothing but good for me. And it really was, it was like a paradigm shift in my life.
very nice. He was very understanding. He wanted to hear what the Peak Act team had said about me, and they were there present. My counselor, my case manager, my therapist, and I believe even the director. And they were very supportive of me in how I was continuing doing so well. And eventually the judge let me go. And I said I would still stick with the program, the ACT program, because it was making me stable and live a healthy life. I graduated in August of 2023 from the AOT program. My experience with the Peak Act team, um, gaining support with them, was that they were just always there for you. They have a crisis line that you can call anytime, any night of the day, and just to voice a concern, or if you're in crisis. Um, they text you. They're very nice, have an upbeat personality about them. And you could tell that they genuinely care about their clients. And that's the biggest um, difference in any program that I've been involved in. And it took me, like Bradley said, I've been also hospitalized over 20 times. I don't know how many times. I lost count too. And so when I found this program, I wanted to hold on to it because it made such a difference in my life.
The role that the Richland County Court system played, and particularly Judge Phil Mayer played in my recovery. I know this may sound weird, but with Judge Phil Mayer and with my guardian ad litem, attorney Joseph Jerger, with my case manager Dupree, and even Condrea. Condrea was the clerk of the court. I have a very, very strong friendship with them to this day because they saw me as a friend. They saw me as a person with intrinsic value and real worth and real dignity. They didn't see me as just another case. They didn't see me as just another piece of paper on their clipboard. They didn't see me as, oh, well, we just have to clock in for the day and deal with this knucklehead and then clock out. They took an interest in my interests. They took a liking to my likes, and they wanted to see the diamond in the rough. They wanted to polish me until I shined. The assisted outpatient treatment program made me not only better at my interests, but it made me better as a person, and not just when it came to like my mental well-being, but when it came to like my entire personhood and my personality and how I treat others.
Yes, they want to encourage anybody that comes through their program to live an independent life, a safe lifestyle, and just to grow within the program. The only challenging part about being in the ACT team was just gaining their trust. I don't think I was coerced or forced into it. It was just something that I had to accept. And that was the hard part of knowing that, oh no, it's a court order. So I better take this seriously and start, taking the medications on time every day, not skipping out. I also had a treatment guardian for a year throughout that time that I was first put on AOT. So that she helped a lot too.
For me, I was persuaded into AOT. I was convinced into AOT, and I was like mercifully sort of like, invited into AOT. But for me, it didn't take away my freedom. It did the exact opposite. It gave me my freedom, whereas the only other option they had was to have me in a psychiatric hospital hold for at least 2 years or even longer than that. So AOT directly gave me my continuing freedom rather than taking it away. The difference in the relationships that I have with my family and with my friends, and the way that those relationships have changed prior to AOT versus after being in AOT, is simply the fact that all my family and most of my family, I will say most of my family, has decided to actually read up and, bone up on what is schizoaffective disorder and schizoaffective symptoms and what's not. It's just like a night and day difference. They're like, and so many times I hear them say, I had no idea that that was your experience. They weren't even educated on things like audible hallucinations or visible hallucinations or delusions of grandeur or delusions of political this or religious that. They just didn't know. I had a brother who was in the military, that before AOT, I feel like our brotherhood was in one way, and then after AOT, it's been nothing but better in the more positive way. Um, I I had another older brother that there for a while, for a long time. He thought maybe we should just try and haul off and whoop the crazy out of him. And of course, nobody in my family ever did that. But since he's been educated on schizoaffective disorder, our relationship is magnitudes better.
My life now, it's great. I have less complaints. I'm a lot happier. Um, before moving back to my hometown, I was living in Albuquerque, New Mexico in a group home with like 9 different ladies. Thank God we had our own rooms to be in, but it wasn't the most. I was grateful for the fact that I had a place to stay, but it wasn't the ideal place that I wanted to be at. So I moved back here to Las Cruces, and I live with my grandma and my uncle. And I'm now working, and life couldn't be better. And like I said, the support of the ACT team really helped me get there. During the process of being in the hospital and coming back home, it was the worst uphill to get better because it took me about 3 months to get well. And that was the longest time I've ever had to be sick and go through that. I mean, I would have rather have died than continue living like that. And so now that they see me doing so well, I think they're very grateful to God that this is happening for me because it wasn't like that all the time. My family is really close knit, so I always felt the support from them, but it's harder when I'm sick because I'm not in the right state of mind and I might lash out or, just go into rages and just push them away. So now that I'm better, I could say they're getting better, but I think they've matured on a level that I didn't have before. Like, I feel like I'm actually becoming more independent. I've always been independent, but now I feel more independent. I think the awareness is getting there. I think a lot of the times you hear about it, but not enough people will actually read up on it or investigate it. I know for myself, my family was really on board when they first heard that about my diagnosis, and they did go attend NAMI, um, the local NAMI meetings, and so they educated themselves. My parents did, at least, and I think my grandma did a couple of times. So that's where the support comes in. I think anytime you have um, a family member or a friend, just read up on it, Google it. What's keeping me well today is definitely taking the medications every day and having the support of the ACT team and attending group therapy, having counseling sessions, and gaining employment and keeping employment. Having something outside of the house to go to is very beneficial.
The ways that I try to live well on a daily and weekly basis with mental illness is I pray a daily rosary. I try to walk on the treadmill during the winter or walk outside during the summer for at least an hour, if not an hour and a half. I go to sacramental confession once a week. I see my priest as a type of spiritual accountability partner. I take my medications and I stay connected with my case manager to this day, even though I graduated from AOT. I meet up with him once every 2 weeks and we talk about all sorts of things for about 2 hours. So those are a lot of things that I do. And I just wanted to say that really what I have tried to maintain from AOT that helps me stay healthy and helps me to expand my horizons and expand my mind is just trying on a daily basis to be coachable and to be teachable from other people, even if I don't always agree with them on any range of issues. The number one thing I would tell people that are considering entering into AOT or have simply that have just been ordered into AOT is give it a chance and give it a chance. Go all out, go all in. Uh, get into a good friendship with your judge, with your case manager, with your liaison, with your guardian ad litem, with your talk therapist and your psychiatrist. Get to know them, open up to them, and help them to get to know you as well, and simply give it a chance, and it can work wonders.
Well, I would definitely agree with Bradley is to give it a chance. Don't be scared or apprehensive or, think that this isn't going to help me, because in reality it's a new doorway opening to a new life, to learning something new about yourself, that you can have a life that you want, a healthy life.